Imagine being out on the street one day when all of a sudden someone brandished a gun at you. How are you going to respond? Run is a common response, a survival instinct bestowed on us by nature. However, sometimes the best course of action is to face your fear, as in the following story. The plot tells the story of a philosopher's youth. Have you ever heard a snap sound and turned to look after it while out for a stroll in the market with a friend? They noticed a man standing there staring at them with a rifle. Immediately, fear shot to the top of his heart. His heart was racing, his body was trembling, and he immediately ran for his life. But when I reconnected with my pal, rather than his buddies being relieved that you are safe, he became enraged and accused him of fleeing. Because a friend charged at the gunman as soon as he saw that someone was holding a pistol. The gunman fled after becoming scared as a result. This event turned into a life-changing lesson that you will never forget. Tackle your fear head-on by facing it head-on rather than running away. We will discover that it is not as scary as we once believed when faced with it. The characteristics of fear. Fear is a fundamental human emotion that has a significant impact on life. It acts as a survival mechanism, warning us when we're in danger. But dread is frequently unfounded. It has nothing to do with real danger. Rather, it was the result of our imagination or thoughts. For this reason, when they are terrified, some people choose to hide. The more we flee, the stronger fear seems to get, which might have an impact on our day-to-day activities and choices. Fear and pull away. Humans naturally seek to retreat from frightening situations. This reaction is a component of our ancestors' fight-or-flight survival strategy. When coming across a lion or other beast, this is where knowing how to get out of harm's way might be helpful. However, in the modern world, we frequently flee from threats that do not pose a physical threat, such as anxieties about the future, life adjustments, or even social anxiety like speaking in front of a large crowd. We will never have the chance to face or genuinely learn from fear if we choose to run from it. Over time, that dread will build up and become an issue that feels intractable for us to solve. Avoiding scary circumstances, like skipping the doctor out of dread of receiving bad news, is one example. It will cause more anxiety to accumulate until it develops into a chronic illness. Fear that seeps into the soul. The intriguing thing about fear is that we frequently invent it in our imaginations. It's not always a realistic scenario that causes this worry. It is predicated on conjecture and fantasy. For example, even though needle discomfort is quite mild in comparison to other types of pain, a lot of people suffer from needle phobia. However, our worries are frequently magnified in our thoughts to the point that we believe they are too terrifying. Stress is brought on by this mental amplification of fear. Straining physical symptoms can also occur occasionally, including palpitations, dyspnea, and even fainting. People who are terrified of geckos, for instance, reasonably speaking, nothing is frightening or harmful about geckos. However, a fear that has been ingrained in people since infancy can make them run away or treat geckos, though they are dangerous animals. This anxiety intensifies into a strong feeling that compels us to take unnecessary actions. Fear of illness, cancer, and fear of cancer. Another example of dread being intensified by the mind is fear of diseases such as cancer. Cancer is a deadly illness that affects many people. However, our internal fear of cancer has the power to worsen our circumstances more than the actual illness. Many individuals are aware of their risk or have personal experience with a loved one receiving a cancer diagnosis. They frequently worry too much and worry that they will develop cancer, until unable to live a normal life. Conversely, individuals with a cancer diagnosis can, however, accept the state they're in. They could instead lead happier lives. Some opt to devote more of their time to activities they enjoy or time with family, or to pursuits they find more worthwhile, since they don't allow fear to control them, even if they continue to have cancer. Confronting fear. Facing fear head-on is the best approach to overcome it. Rather than avoiding or suppressing fear, we can face it head-on and gain insight into it by paying attention to our feelings at that very moment. For example, when we are terrified, our body stiffens, our heartbeat speeds up, and our minds start to dwell on our anxieties. You can learn more about your fear by keeping an eye on yourself while you're afraid. And many times we will learn that dread is not as overpowering as we believed. Practicing mindfulness to face your fears is a very powerful tool. We don't need to get rid of fear, but learning to live with it without letting it take over your mind can help us live a more peaceful life. The way to solve this is to confront it. One feeling that might make us feel weak and powerless is fear. However, running away from or suppressing fear increases its power. Avoiding fear is not the best method to deal with it, but to be honest with it. Being fearless does not entail entering a frightening situation unprepared. It entails allowing oneself to be afraid and comprehend the genesis of dread. What impact does it have on our thoughts and bodies? As a result, fear loses some of its power, and we can accept it without feeling forced or under duress. Genuine case study. A parent assists his child in confronting his fears. The true story of a father whose daughter was terrified to ride on a floating platform on a pier serves as an excellent illustration of facing fear. She will be so terrified each time he has to walk on the platform that he won't even dare to step. His father refrained from pressuring his kid to overcome his concerns. Rather, we opt to instruct our kids on how to notice and identify their own emotions. A parent demonstrates to his child how terror causes the body to respond. Your hands get stiff, your knees tremble, your heart palpitates, or you start to sweat out. The reason behind all of this worry is that something is perceived by the brain as hazardous. She learns from observations such as these that fear is merely a physical condition, which, when calmly observed and acknowledged, will cause the fear to disappear. She starts to understand that fear is transient. It rises, persists, and passes away on its own if we don't flee or stop it. She can now stroll on the platform without being afraid as time goes by. Self-monitoring during fear. The secret to understanding fear. Practicing observation and comprehension of fear is the most effective technique to deal with it. A mindfulness exercise that can assist us in understanding the truth of our anxieties is to observe ourselves when we feel afraid. Rather than attempting to run away from fear, we might begin by pausing and observing the changes occurring in our bodies and minds, such as a rapid heartbeat. Do your hands feel chilly or tremble? What happens that causes our minds to stray or get anxious? Such observations can assist us in gaining a more objective perspective on our worries. We're going to start seeing that terror is just an emotion with an innate bodily reaction. It wasn't anything too strong to deal with. Instead, it is a physical and psychological symptom that may or may not manifest. This also applies to other feelings like grief or rage. Fear is a transient emotion that comes, stays, and goes. Benefits of confronting fear. You can better control your emotions by being honest with yourself about your anxieties. Fear is not the enemy from whom we must run when we comprehend its nature and get skill in watching it, but it is a cautionary tale that advises us to proceed cautiously while making choices and give events more careful thought. People who are frightened of public speaking, for instance, by choosing to acknowledge and confront your fear, you may progressively can acquire confidence. Facing our anxieties head-on not only gives us the strength to undertake the things we were afraid to do before. However, it also teaches us how to better deal with the uncertainties in life. Since ignorance, uncertainty, or unmet expectations are often the root causes of fear in reality, we will be more equipped to handle life's obstacles with an open and considerate mindset once we can confront our concerns in a composed manner. Routine interactions. It's not necessary to confront your anxieties in a stressful circumstance. However, you can start by monitoring how fear affects your body and mind in your day-to-day activities. For instance, if you are afraid to try new things, talk to strangers, or start a new job, then attempt to take small steps outside your comfort zone. In day-to-day existence, worry frequently surfaces from seemingly little situations, such as the worry of making a mistake, or the dread of receiving negative feedback daily. Dealing with small worries strengthens our courage and prepares us for future exposure and larger concerns. Everyone has to deal with fear at some point in their lives, whether it is dread about the future change or unforeseen events. However, fear becomes stronger when it is avoided or suppressed. It's best to confront your fear head-on and develop the ability to confront it while being calm. Fear turns out not to be as terrifying as we once believed. It is a useful technique for personal growth. Life lessons that go beyond fear. Facing one's emotions is a concept that extends beyond fear. Other emotions, however, frequently overpower us. The same approach can be used to cope with emotions like hate, anger, or greed. Embracing and dealing with these feelings rather than avoiding them, it serves as a tool to better comprehend those feelings and lessen their influence. Emotional power. You will be more controlled the more you run away. Avoiding facing feelings like greed or rage, it frequently gives those feelings more control over us. This occurs when we fail to comprehend the source or character of such feelings. Without realizing it, feelings are what motivate us. For instance, when we hate someone, we don't think about the causes behind it or examine our own emotions. Every time we encounter that individual, our hatred grows until it eventually takes over and dominates our thoughts and behaviors. Consider a different example. It is a desire for goods or greed. Wanting something can frequently drive us to act in an irrational or unethical way. These feelings take the place of reasoned thought. If we are unaware of them, we can be inclined to act improperly to feed our greed. How to face your feelings and harness their power. We may deliberately examine our emotions when we face them head-on rather than running away or repressing them. We have more control over our reactions when we are aware of and comprehend the causes of those feelings, refusing to give such feelings control over us. A mother who helped her child comprehend their need for toys is an excellent example of this. Rather than getting toys that your youngster will either instantly enjoy or reject, the mother educates her child to notice her cravings every day. Allow your child to observe and comprehend the inner thoughts behind what happens. How does a child's desire for things grow and then gradually fade when they learn that some things don't always need to be pursued? Other feelings include hate and anger. Apart from desiring another emotion, we can handle in the same manner as anger. When we let our anger control us, we frequently take acts that aggravate the situation. However, if we decide to pause and acknowledge that rage, we'll discover that it's simply a temporary feeling that comes and goes. It will be easier to control anger if you accept that it is a fleeting feeling and know what creates it. It keeps us from reacting angrily right away. For hatred, when can hate become an accepted part of life? We frequently make snap judgments about individuals or circumstances. Hatred creates rejection and self-harm. Therefore, you can better comprehend the source of hate by facing it head-on, by being aware of and understanding your sentiments. What impact does it have on our lives and thoughts too? Hatred eventually loses its power as we realize its true nature, allowing us to overcome this feeling. Understanding emotions and engaging in mindfulness. The most crucial thing is to confront feelings. It has to do with living a calm and attentive life. Being mindfully aware of the present moment can be made easier by practicing mindfulness and can detect mood swings with clarity. How can we tell how these feelings come about? How can one develop power? How did it disappear too? One effective strategy for controlling emotions is mindfulness, whether it's greed, rage, or terror. Identifying and addressing feelings also lessens the intensity of those feelings. However, it also increases our capacity for self-control. When we recognize and acknowledge negative emotions such as fear, rage, or greed, they eventually lose their power and allow us to make happier, more thoughtful judgments. Useful fear. There are two aspects to the emotion of fear. Fear resulting from ignorance is one half of the coin. Stress or worry, this frequently leads us to act rashly or avoid confronting difficult situations. However, fear also has the potential to be a creative and nourishing force. It is an innate human tool that aids in evading danger and cultivating virtues such as hiri, or the shame of transgression. Creative fear. This kind of fear is the one that causes us to exercise caution and choose wisely to avoid harm. For instance, we cross the street cautiously out of fear of accidents. Alternatively, we take care not to touch the power plug with moist hands out of fear of electric shock. These anxieties serve as effective safety nets, protecting us against threats to our lives and property. A moral culture is also greatly influenced by fear. For instance, our dread of immorality prevents us from steering clear of misbehavior. Hiri, shame over sins. Fear that serves a moral purpose is hiri, or shame over sin. Hiri causes us to experience fear or anxiety when we commit wrongdoing, such as lying or spreading rumors about other people. The force that influences our decision to act morally and ethically is our fear of being judged or disgraced. This is a crucial foundation for creating a just and morally respecting society. Being sincere reflects your value for morality and your desire to avoid actions that could hurt you or other people. You may learn via fear. Untrue. An additional helpful phobia is fear which prevents us from making the same mistakes twice and forces us to learn from them. For instance, those who have experienced commercial failure may be terrified of it happening again, which isn't always a terrible thing. If this fear helps people grow and learn from their mistakes, then fear turns into the motivation that pushes people to put in more effort and be better prepared. The fear of failing is an inescapable emotion. However, it ought to be employed as a tool to establish future prosperity and stability. Fear poses a challenge. Whereas some anxieties serve a protective and useful purpose, our progress and enjoyment are impeded by excessive or illogical anxieties. For example, our fear of failing keeps us from trying new things. This anxiety prevents us from pushing ourselves to learn new abilities or accomplish the objective, which leaves us stuck in an endless cycle of negative psi. The fear of change is the same. Fear of the unknown makes many people afraid to make changes in their lives. The worry that you won't have anything familiar, even if it's not a nice way to live. For instance, when someone feels forced to work at a job they dislike. However, they are scared to leave since they don't know if they'll be able to find another job. Worried that a change would result in worse things, this kind of fear can put someone in a scenario where they suffer nonstop. How to overcome fear when it becomes a barrier. To overcome the worries that limit our lives, we must examine our feelings and ideas, embracing fear rather than running away or suppressing it. It is a means of assisting us in comprehending the source of our fear. And when we comprehend the essence of the fear that prevents us, does it truly make sense? We'll be able to adjust and work through issues. For instance, a person who is terrified of speaking in front of an audience could think that their fear is unbeatable. However, as you gradually face your fear in practice, they will find that their fear starts to fade, and public speaking skills developed with time. This shows that results resulting from a lack of expertise may be confronted and conquered. Fear is a complicated feeling. Some aspects help keep us secure and build morals, and elements that have the potential to trap us between fearlessness and anxiety. Recognizing the essence of fear and determining if it serves a beneficial or harmful purpose, it will enable us to better protect ourselves and use fear as an effective tool. Buddhism's approach to fear management. Buddhism provides an approach to fear management that is distinct from our innate instincts. Instead of running away or evading, Buddhism encourages us to face our concerns mindfully by observe and acknowledge. First, observe the fear that appears, both external appearances and internal psychological problems. Recognize its characteristics, Understand that fear is merely a temporary emotion that comes, persists, and passes. Put mindfulness into practice. Apply mindfulness as a technique to see your anxieties objectively. Don't overstate or add. Any scenario in life can benefit from applying the principles of Buddhist fear management techniques, which include: practice facing your fears head-on by progressively escalating your smaller ones. Practice mindfulness by becoming conscious of your feelings and thoughts. Practice letting go of fear by learning to do so. Consider it as merely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Buddhism teaches how to deal with fear and other unpleasant feelings. Instead of ignoring or running from it, dare to confront, notice, and comprehend it. Because when we do that, we frequently discover that the things we fear are not as terrifying as we once believed. And ultimately, the force of fear will progressively diminish. If you're ready to take the next step on your path to self-discovery and emotional freedom, don't forget to subscribe to Awakened Way. Get the latest insights on mindfulness, spiritual practices, and personal growth every week. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode that could change your life. Your journey to a peaceful and awakened life starts here.